Hey everybody, this is D.L. Wilburn, author of the God Protocol trilogy. My voice sounds a little different because I've got allergies. It's a Texas thing. All the pollen and everything flying around the air down here about this time of year through probably late fall. So, it's that on again, off again. So my voice is a little deeper. So I want to take some time today and talk about one of the main characters in my story, the God Protocol Dragon, and actually stays as an active character through all three books. Hopefully I'm not spoiling it for anyone. I'm talking about George Isaacson. George was an interesting character to work on and to develop. Now, I did borrow some of his characteristics from a friend of mine that I met through gaming in the game Rift. His name was George. He's from Staten Island, and so I wanted to be true to my friend and kind of give him a little bit of a homage to him. And but I also wanted to make sure that George was accurate to the area of Staten Island. I didn't want to base it all on my buddy. And so when I was creating the character George, I needed to create a character who was going to be a conspiracy theorist. So he was going to have a podcast. He's just starting out. He wants to make it big. He wants to get some of my younger friends have told me they want to get that YouTube money. Was his goal. So he's a conspiracy theorist only because he believes that's the way that he's going to become famous. Is he's going to do podcasts on conspiracy theories, go visit crop circles and talk to people about UFOs, and he can kind of say whatever he wants. There's no real evidence on these things. And so George starts off, and you start the book off, the first one, and he's rushing to get home because he wants to make sure that he does his show on time. He does it live. Does it from an extra room in his apartment. So he's getting home, and you kind of get introduced to his character. He's late on rent, and he's got he doesn't have his money. You hear the discussion between him and his landlady, and I'm going to pay you your rent. I'm going to get it on time. I'm working my other job, and all those kinds of things. And then he goes off and he starts talking to these people. Now he has loyal followers in the beginning that are just from Staten Island, his local YouTube show, maybe a few people here and there. And so he starts out, and you get the feeling George isn't really a believer. So he doesn't believe in UFOs or any of that other stuff. He doesn't discount them, but he's not a believer. He doesn't, he's not an off the deep end kind of conspiracy theorist person who believes in everything and says, everything's a cover up. He's just using it as a way to make money, and he thinks this is the way to do it. So, and I don't want to go too much into his story beyond that and how it grows, and he almost becomes the framing element for the first book, where he's the narrator. His sections kind of tie everything together because he's showing and talking about the global picture and what's going on. He starts linking things together, and then he gets caught up in it all because of a story that he made up. He and a friend of his made up on a NASA discovery. They come up with this great, fantastic story about aliens and coming to Earth and all this stuff. And then slowly through the book, you find out that his made up story is closer to the truth than he thought that it was. And then when things start coming out and, other events happen, he starts to realize, oh crap, I may be more right than this. He starts to believe himself and then becomes an advocate eventually down the road. Now, the creation of George, and I wanted George's personality, as authors do with all their characters, I wanted George's personality to be unique. And so, but I also wanted him to be true to Staten Island. So I did have my buddy from Staten Island as one of my beta readers. And when he read, I said, hey, I need you to make sure that my character is true to Staten Island. I don't want to disrespect anyone, and I want the character to feel like, he's from there and he's talking. And I have my notes here that I made, and it's funny because I was writing the dialogue and going through, and I did the George story, reading the George storyline through the book. I had to go back and change some of his dialogue to make sure that I said the right things in there, that he was using phrases that were common in the Staten Island area. And I'm sure it's in other areas around there as well. So you'll hear George, or you'll read George in there say literally, or for days, or could you imagine, not for nothing, at the end of the day, take it there. I did fit in one time. I was trying to figure out how to do this. I was going to fit it in there, the throw hands, just, for getting into a fight with somebody. And using the term mad instead of the word very. So it was really fun to go back and look at the dialogue that George had through the book, and then to make the adjustments and adapt it, and then to hear his voice in your head. And when I write characters and scenes and everything, I can visualize it. I visualize it in my head. I can see it play out. I can see the things in the room or wherever the setting is, and so I can see the characters as well. So hearing his voice and hearing that Staten Island accent and those phrases helped really develop him or solidify him as a character in my head, and it made it much easier to write and then to carry him on and to see how he grew in the first book from, he starts off as this non-believing conspiracy theorist who doesn't really care, just kind of trying to take advantage of people, to in the end being an advocate for the everyday person against government cover-ups and secrecy, to continuing on to the next book into Worshippers, where now he has his own show, and into Judgment, where now he's a major player in what's going on in the world, in challenging things that governments are doing and things that, at the new group Worshippers of Enlil are doing. So that's kind of the idea or the things behind George and where I came up with it and how I wrote it. And it was kind of fun, and I look forward to it. I don't know if I'll write any more with George in there. There's always a possibility. He was a fun character to do, and every once in a while I decide to write a short story or something like that. So you never know where we go back and maybe we'll see George and Tim in college, or George and Carl preparing for a show, or George, Carl, and Tess off chasing down witnesses for crop circles or something like that. So you never know what'll pop up later. So I hope you enjoyed this. And again, it's just a quick insight into how I created that character. I'm going to do a couple more of these over time and talk about the different characters in each of the different books and what I did to get into the mindset, change the dialogue, make them unique, and then to fit them into the story in a way that gave them their own arc, as well as then supporting the story of kind of weaving them all together. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you all for listening, and that's all I got. Bye.